Welcome to the Sporting Chance. This podcast is brought to you by Midnight Falconry, makers of high-quality falconry leashes and jesses. Check them out at midnightfalconry.com. Ashley Clark Falconry, the highest quality leather falconry equipment, handmade in England, built to last and looks damn good while you're at it. Check them out at aclarkfalconry.co.uk. Be sure and use the code SportingChance10 at checkout. North Mountain Goshawks. Seth Roy is breeding high-quality, true parent-reared goshawks in addition to imprint goshawks on order. Check him out at northmountaingoshawks.com. All right, welcome everyone to the Sporting Chance podcast. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Kincaid, and we are joined today by an extremely special guest, your other co-host, Casey Everett. Thanks for coming, Casey.
Hey, it's my pleasure. My pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. So today, just like the previous episode, you as the viewers or you as the listeners learned a little more about me. Today, you're going to learn a little more about Casey. It should be a real treat. It should be a real treat.
Yeah, or not. but you never know.
Casey, the people want to know what wets your whistle.
There's a lot of things that wet this whistle. There's a lot of things.
Your history is out there a little more than mine. Like I'd said in the last one, I live quietly.
Yeah.
You do not live quietly.
I did for many years. I did for the majority of my falconry. I didn't post anything. I posted a little here and there. Some of like the OG people might remember, like back in the day, I'd post like super corny, like flexing with a red tail, in the woods. It was like super grainy, and like it was like lame. And I tried to film like my hunts. I'm real rough on my equipment, so like I would break phones all the time. And back then, like you had to like send. I don't know if you remember this. You had to send all your pictures to like your friend. And then when you got your new phone, you had your friend send all the pictures back.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Remember that? The good old days?
Yep.
And like I lost like all my videos. Like I used to have some pretty decent, like cool videos of like my red tails and stuff and like my dogs working. Like I don't really have any of that stuff anymore.
Well, I commend you for how good of a job you do documenting your falconry because I do a really bad job, as you know.
Yeah, I know. And I tell you, I think you should document more because you got all kinds of cool birds and you got a bunch of dogs and you're always doing something interesting. Like people would love to see that stuff. But you don't have to. Like it's not, it's one of those things where there's nothing wrong with not posting. I mean, obviously not posting is probably preferable, but you get caught in the trap of posting and it just, becomes fun and you have fun doing it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a lot of people. A lot of people disagree. They think there is something wrong with it. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, as long as it's tasteful and as long as you're representing like good quality falconry and like you're not having an arm wrestling match with your red tail and a blanket trying to trade it off and then putting it on TikTok. That's one I saw.
I was going to say, sounds like you've seen that one.
Yeah, literally. It was like footing his free hand, like hanging off his glove. And he's like trying to pull the rabbit out of its feet. And his wife's like filming. And I'm just like, I think I commented on it, but he probably blocked me. He's like one of those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Like where you want like
criticism.
They don't like the criticism. And like, granted, maybe I should have just like kept it to myself, but I don't think I was rude. I think I just said like, you should probably have kept that one private or something like that. And he's like, I'm showing the journey. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, but it just looked like the optics of it just looked bad. Like
the really bad journey.
Yeah, it's like a new bow hunter like filming all of his hunts with all of his equipment, and he like shoots a deer in the leg, and the thing's like bleeding and stuff. It's like I'm showing the journey. It's like why show that? Like nobody wants to see that, and it's stupid. And yeah, you'll get views because everyone's going to share it and comment on it, but it's not for your benefit or your the sport's benefit. It's kind of like. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff that people get mad at, like kills and like catching stuff. I see both sides of the argument and I understand where everyone's coming from. But at the same time, like you're hunting and you're flying and that's what's that's what the sport is all about. Like the sport is not about taking a selfie with your bird or calling a bird to your fist. Like that's not what the sport's about. The sport's about hunting, and catching stuff and the bird chasing stuff. So I don't really feel any type of shame sharing any of that kind of stuff at all.
And that's pretty much 100% of your content is hunting. Maybe a little bit of training.
Yeah, I do like a little bit of training stuff. I feel like if I leaned into the training stuff, people would probably like it. The training stuff, you got to like talk and explain what you're doing, or like it's just like more work. It's a lot easier to just post like a video of your bird chasing and catching something, and then like post a second clip of the bird eating it, and then maybe throw in a trade-off video, and then go home. Like that's easier. But like to explain, like I'm making jesses, you got to set up your camera and like, set everything up and like cut everything. And it just seems like it's just like more work. And my page, I would say my core goal is to educate people. But it's really more just to show what the birds do and like, how they do it. That's kind of like more of what I do. Cause I don't post myself really. I mean, you could go through my whole thing is like only a couple pictures of me actually in any of the photos or videos. I try to like leave myself out.
Current events that I wanted to bring up with you was there's 3 things. Anyone who follows you on social media saw that you were part of a group that was collecting goshawk eyeasses. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. Obviously, you're not going to go into details of locations and the people the people you were with. Some of them wanted to remain anonymous.
Yes,
for good reason, and we can go into that a little bit too. But I also wanted to mention we had this week 2 falconers were on big podcasts this week. So we had Jeremy Jones, who was on our podcast recently. He was on the Mossy Oak Gamekeepers podcast. And then the Meat Eater podcast, they had a RFK Jr.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff for us as falconers.
What was your experience like when you went out hunting with him? Now, you've been out twice, I think, right?
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get invited out twice to be the closing act, as they say. Yeah, so basically the whole situation is it's a fun, just to give the audience a background on like how I met him and stuff. I DM'd him, I said, let's collab, and he was like, bet. And then we met up. No, it was a fundraiser for a children's hospital. So there's a children's hospital that he sat on the board on. I believe that's the story, or he's heavily involved in. And it's one of those hospitals where, like, for cancer and all kinds of stuff, and they raise money, through private donors. So they have like twice a year, they have a big banquet, and it used to be in person where you would go and like wealthy people would go and, they'd meet RFK, and then they would bid on all these different things. And one of the things that you could bid on was a chance to fly birds and practice falconry with RFK Jr. And, my buddy was saying that sometimes they raise like significant amounts of money from some of these donors to get that chance to go out. So then if they win and they get chosen, I think that just you win. Whoever gives the most money for that, they win. It's like a bidding thing to raise, and all the money goes to the hospital for the kids. And then they fly them out. I think they can bring like a guest or 2 or a few, and then they have dinner in the city, all with RFK. They hang out with them. I think they do some other stuff. Then they go to my buddy's house, who lives 20 minutes away from me, and they have a big like brunch. They take pictures with all of his birds. He's got like over 100 birds at his house. Now he's probably got way more because it's breeding season. And, they take pictures with the birds and they hang out. And then we go across to the property, and they fly Harris Hawks around, like real simple stuff that us
user friendly.
Yeah. Real user friendly stuff, like for the general public. So they, you go on a hawk walk, you fly, 2 Harris Hawks. Some years they put out bags, some years they don't. First year we put out bags. Both years we put out bags. And they have no clue what's going on, like the people that come, and it's just like launchers going off and like pheasants flying, and the birds are chasing them. And then when they grab them, everybody gathers around, and it's like a real hunt. They got to go through the brush, and they're like all these wealthy people like in dress shoes, like going through the brush. And then we talk about what's going on. Oh, the bird's plucking now. Okay, we're going to dispatch it. We're going to do the trade-off. And it's just like a real fun thing. And then we fly a falcon. So we sometimes will go to a different spot, like a more open area, and then we fly a falcon, maybe do a bag for the falcon. And then both years we just put out a bag pheasant in a launcher, and then nobody knows, not even Bobby, like where it is or anything. And then just me and Tom know where it is. And then we walk and we beat brush like we're hunting. And then he looks at me, I look at him, and I give him the signal. And he clicks the button, and the thing launches, and the bird flies it down and catches it. And it's real. It's fun for everybody. It's a lot of fun. It's good for the bird to be with like 20 plus people in the field, and the whole event is like super laid back. Like I was able to bring my wife. Other people could go. There was a couple other old school falconers that I knew that all showed up, and I'm like, oh, you're here, and we're all hanging out. And Bobby is like the nicest guy ever. Like he meets however many people he meets a year. And the second time we went, he walks over, gives my wife a big hug, says, "Hey, Julie, nice to see you again. How you doing? How's your son? How's everything?" Asking me. And I'm like, how does this guy, like, how does he remember? Like, it was like a full year ago. He's about to run for president. How the heck does he remember my wife's name and like that we have a child, a son? And he's a real normal guy. He's like us. He's like a normal guy. He really is. I'm sure he's got a different kind of a lifestyle because of the way he was, brought up. He's very high profile. So there's no avoiding that. But from everything I saw, he's just like a down to earth normal guy. Like, for example, he's like, I don't know if he wants me to say this or not. And Bobby, if you're listening, which you're definitely listening.
Of course, he's a big fan.
He's a huge fan, and it's funny and it's endearing. And we're all there and we're all hanging around. Everyone's talking after, like, my bird was plucking, and he goes, "Oh, I gotta pee," and he just like literally like runs behind a tree, like right in front of like everybody and all the camera people, his photographer, everyone's like videoing him, taking pictures of him just taking a piss behind a tree like any other falconer would.
Why not?
Like no, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but like some people in that position might not feel comfortable doing that. So I thought that was something so like stupid like that. I was like, wow, this guy's pretty cool. He's like pretty normal, And yeah, he's a super nice guy. And, we don't talk all the time, obviously. Like, we're not like friends, but,
Don't you have his number?
Yeah, I have his number. I have his number, but it's like, I would never, like I was joking with my buddies, like I'm gonna get drunk and just like start texting him and calling him and stuff. Like,
we should do a giveaway for the podcast, where we give away his number.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, he's probably got like 10 phones,
I'm sure.
And it's funny because me and the listeners know me that I don't know when to shut up. So we're like walking and I'm standing in the back and he's got like, guys in black suits and earpieces and guns all around us the entire time.
Did he really?
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, every year, of course. They came the day before. I went over to do the practice with Tom, like where we did a launch and, and we talked about where we were going to set it up and do a walkthrough, like a rehearsal. And we're standing there and this SUV pulls in and like these dudes get out with like suits, like just like from a movie. And they walk up. I'm like, what the hell is this? He goes, "It's probably Bobby's security, I think. Let me go talk to him." And they were just chatting. And then he comes back. He's like, "Yeah, they just want to check out the place and make sure everything's secure." And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. And then he was like, "Yeah, I think he's going to possibly run, maybe. I don't know." So I'm like, really? And then a month later, he announced he was running.
You think with his family history, you can't blame him for wanting security guards?
No, and that was one of the interesting parts of the Meat Eater podcast, because he got into all the assassination stuff. He told the whole story how his dad got killed and like how like they were jumping on the guy to get the gun away from him, and there was another guy that was in his group that was the one that actually shot him, and they figured it out because he went right up to him acting like he was helping, and he just shot him like 4 times in the back, like point blank. And nobody noticed, because it was chaos and the other guy was shooting at the same time while they were laying on him. It's just like, it's just crazy. Like it's just like a different, it's just like a different life, man. Like growing up like that. It must be crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of conspiracies around that stuff. And
it's not even conspiracy. I mean, it's just like, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
in my opinion. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's between JFK and the situation with him being shot, and then RFK a short time after.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? JFK Jr., didn't he die in was it a helicopter crash or was it
a bunch of people, a bunch of Kennedys disappeared in
strange ways. Yeah, strange ways.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I can't blame him, having security. But I said all that to say because I'm such an idiot. The two guys walking in the back, and they're like walking and they're like standing like right next to each other. And I'm like, oh, this is cute. I'm like, what, you guys on a date? I'm just like joking around with them, trying to get a laugh at them. They didn't even crack a smile. They just looked at me and just stared at me. And I was like, chill, guys. I'm just joking. And then
just having a little fun.
Just having a little fun, guys.
What happens if your goshawk like jumps on RFK's face or something?
Well, dude, that's what I told him, because that bird was a hand-me-down bird, Talvi. All the ones that, just for the listeners know, any picture of Bobby Kennedy holding a white goshawk, that's my goshawk. Just FYI.
Yeah, there's that beautiful painting of him that's going around.
A sweet painting. If I was a wealthy individual, I would offer that guy some money for that picture. That's a cool picture. So yeah, that's my bird. But that bird's a hand-me-down bird, and she has like moments where she gets a little spicy. And I was handing him the bird, and I'm like, Bobby, lock those jesses down. And he's like, oh, God. He's just holding them. I'm like, Bobby, lock those jesses down, man. I'm like, watch this bird. He's like, and then I did a little research on him, and you see he's like over in Africa with like giant eagles and stuff. He's climbing nests, getting hit by birds. Like he like, I'm like, he's fine. He knows what he's doing. Like, he's not going to let that thing grab him. And not that she tried to at all. She was really well behaved. It was really, that bird is like literally like an abusive spouse. Like, when there's people around, that bird behaves herself. Like, she keeps it bottled up. But when we're alone and she gets in one of those moods, man, she'll freaking come after you. It's hilarious. But that bird is man. Yeah, that bird is unfortunately no longer with us. It was a friend of mine was flying it last season, and there was a little mishap, and it is now gone. So, which is unfortunate. But I told him that. I said, listen, if you take it, it is what it is. It is what it is. And
last year, one of my wild Harris hawks, I loaned it to a good friend of mine who I trust 110% and still do trust 110%. And he was flying it, and a squirrel bit its toe off.
God, that sucks.
He felt awful about it. And I was like, when I loaned it to you, I knew that could happen. So I'm not mad at you at all.
Yeah, that's what I said. He felt bad, and he made up for it, and I didn't want him to, and but he was really apologetic and upset, and he's a really good falconer. And I told him, I said, dude, I trust you. Like, when somebody gives you a bird, that's like these breeding projects where like sometimes breeders will give birds to falconers to fly and they give them back. I'm like, that's so risky, because like, you have to have that all squared away first when you get the bird. Like, if this thing dies, like, am I on the hook? Like, you know what I mean? And yeah, but I told them from the get-go, like, fly it, have fun with it, kill squirrels, kill rabbits, kill whatever you want, ducks, and if something happens, it happens. I said, it is what it is, and something happened. But that's the risk we take.
What wrong will go wrong. It seems like,
no. And he knows that I love him.
It's funny you mentioned the breeders loaning birds out to people to fly. There's the African crowned eagles, which I'm pretty sure your friend was involved in importing those.
I think he was in the co-op. Yeah, bringing them in.
My understanding of it is the only ones that survived were the ones that were being flown.
Are you talking about African black sparrowhawks?
No, crowned eagles.
Oh, the crowned eagles. Yes. Yeah. The African black sparrowhawks were part of that many years ago. And then the crowned eagles. Yeah. I asked him all about that. I said, we got to get more of those. And he said they take very long to progress. I guess it's an eagle thing.
Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Yeah. Eagles stay with their parents for a long time.
Yeah. That's
so
what you're
it
saying.
Makes sense. Yeah. But that's interesting that the only ones that lived were the ones that were being hunted. Like the ones that were just in huge chambers being fed, perfect diet, being well taken care for, didn't live.
That's really interesting. I mean, it makes sense.
I had a guy tell me rehabber in Arizona. He told me that eagles, that if you get an adult golden eagle in rehab and it doesn't have a real spacious muse where it can see the sky and the horizon, that it'll die.
Just like a broken heart or something.
I don't know, man. Birds are crazy.
Yeah, man. Eagles are super smart too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of weird, you know. It's like that's why it's like that's like for me, like falconry. Like if you're gonna get a bird, man, you got to fly that bird. Like
you
have to. Yeah, like nothing irritates me more, and I'm sure a lot of listeners would agree. Like when you see like a wealthy person buy like this beautiful, you know, fancy bird, and then they just like they don't do anything with it, or even anyone who buys like a nice bird and they just don't do anything with it. They don't fly it. They just leave it in the mew. It's just like. It's like that bird. It's like buying a Ferrari and not like getting on the highway and freaking ripping it. It's like that thing is meant to be released. Like release that thing. You know,
it's not good for
quality.
falconry.
Yeah, and that's exactly. And it's not good for falconry either. Taking pictures. It's like you have people taking pictures on one end, you got people murdering animals on the other end, and it's like no, it's all the same thing. Like that's what falconry is. Like do it or release the bird. I mean, breeding projects and stuff like that. Obviously, like that's all that stuff. Like is I believe it's super necessary. Like I'm friends with many breeders, and like you're not gonna take your breeding female, Siberian freshly import and start like game hawking it like in the friggin',
right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just dumb. Like it's an investment, and you're investing money into something, and you try to give the bird the best life it can. And the same thing with like reptiles. Like there's all kinds of stuff. Like do you give them, a stimulating environment, or do you give them the bare minimum? Like it's a constant debate in probably any animal keeping community. Probably parrots too. Like you got to free fly them versus not free flying them. There's probably a whole culture of people that don't free fly, and there's probably a whole culture of people that do free fly and they think you should free fly. You know what I mean? Like it's every group that keeps animals probably has that kind of internal strife in the group,
I would assume so. I know with snakes that there's the people who insist on the tubs are the best because they're sterile. You can clean them really well. Yeah. Snakes can't hurt themselves. And then there's the people who think you have to have bioactive.
Yeah.
Whatever, right?
Yeah, whatever. I've kept snakes in tubs, and I've kept snakes in more natural setups, and I would say
as long as you're taking good care of them, who cares?
Yeah, you got to take good care of them. But my argument, and my snakes, the ones that were in the tubs, they bred quicker than the ones in the glass cages. They got all the food they wanted. They got all the warmth they wanted. They got all the water they wanted. The humidity was perfect. You know what I mean? Like, what's a snake do in the wild? I mean, they're out hunting sometimes, but when they're hungry, I would imagine, depending on the species. But if they're happy and content, they're going to probably go roll up under a log or a freaking, a metal tin roof somewhere and just get warm.
Yeah. Snakes are pretty sedentary.
They're pretty simple animals. They don't really require too much. They're the best pets. They really are, I think.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Speaking of simple animals, goshawks.
Me. Oh.
Goshawks. So this past weekend, you were with a group of people pulling eyeasses.
Yeah. I've listen, going up to those nests, man, and seeing goshawks in their natural habitat and watching them soar and cack and seeing the actual nest, seeing where they're living in the habitat. It's like like for me, it's like a life-changing experience. It's so incredible to get up there. And I was at 2 active nests before I was invited 3 years ago to come up with these people. Even then, it's just so special. You find them, and you see them there, and it's even more special when you find it on your own. And I'm sure the guys and girls that are out there looking for nests, and that have found nests, they'll agree that getting a tip or somebody saying go here is a lot different than just finding it and just like walking through the woods and just this looks like good habitat and just walking, and then you find feathers and mutes, and then all of a sudden the nest is there. It's like a whole different experience. And I've only had that once, and it wasn't me who found it. I was with my sponsor. That's a funny story too. It was literally like 14 years old, and my sponsor Phil, he goes, all right, it's let's go look for a goshawk nest. I found a good location, and this is a crazy thing is the spot that he chose to look, goshawks actually nested there like 30 years before we checked, which is crazy. And 10 years before they were there, it was in an old school magazine in the little town in an undisclosed location that it was like a little article that a turkey hunter got his hat taken off in the field by a gray hawk making a cacking noise.
Huh.
And the nest was located 10 years after that. Then like 30 years after that, my sponsor gets, he was doing some research and he found, I guess, the article. I don't know how it came about. And he just says, yeah, let's just go up and look. We're just going to go up. Well, whatever. There's an awesome ice cream place like in the town down in, when you come out of the mountains, we'll go up, we'll get ice cream, we'll hang out, and we'll come back. And he's like, I think it'd be good for you. This is a special thing. It's a big part of falconry, looking for goshawks. And I said, okay. And we go up. First time we go up. And we hiked around for like an hour, and then it was like, he's like, don't even look up for nests, just look at the ground, look for mutes, look for feathers, look for a plucking post. And we're just like, hey, I got a feather over here, I got a mute over here, I got a feather over there. And I just remember Phil, he just goes, bingo. And I go, what? And I look over at him, and we were on the side of this mountain, and we were up above the nest, and we just looked straight ahead, and you could see right into the top of the nest, and you just see the female,
wow,
just looking at us. And then she immediately just turned and flew away cacking. And I mean, even in that moment, like not really understanding what was going on, it was still incredible. And then watching Phil like damn near break his legs doing cartwheels and skipping down the side of this mountain in joy. And he's like grabbing me. He's like, do you see what we just did? And I'm like, what? Like, we found the nest. Isn't that why we were here? He goes, no, you don't understand. Like, it's not that easy. It doesn't work like that. Like, it takes time to find nests. And I'm like, dude, we found it though. Like that, of course they're here. Like that's, it's perfect habitat, right? He's like, no, it doesn't work like that. There's hundreds of thousands of miles of perfect habitat, and they're a needle in a haystack. And I know that now after looking for like 10 years for my own nests and only finding one, that how special of a situation it was. So going up to where these people devote their whole spring, they go out. I'm not going to give away too many of their methods, but they go out. They know who they are and their listeners. Hey, thank you for the weekend. It was great. And it's, they go out, they have various techniques, which probably some people know, but I'm not going to give away like what they do and stuff like that. Not that I want to hide it. They basically, you go out at dawn. Essentially, you go to good habitat locations, you go out at dawn and you listen. And about an hour before sunlight, the male and female will court each other and do vocalizations. And more or less where the vocalizations are coming from, that's more than likely where the nest is. So that's kind of how they do it. But they put an incredible amount of time in it. Like they'll drive 3 hours this way, 2 hours that way, 4 hours that way, 2 hours this way. And it's just like they put so much time into it, and they find a lot of nests every year, and they're really good at it. And they have, their house. Oh, I was just going to say where it is, but I'm not going to do that. But they live basically in the middle of nowhere. And they have a super unique lifestyle that I wish I could just like quit everything and just do what they do. So basically, just so that the audience understands how special it is to be up in that environment, get the invitation to go and join. I joined Paul and Phil Aaliyah on their, on the trip that they've been going on for many years. They made this connection, and I was lucky enough to get invited 3 years ago and go up with them. And it's just a super special thing, and I just feel super grateful to go. And there was 3 active nests this year. There was 2 birds per nest, and 3 eyeasses were pulled. It's just a really special time. It was awesome. It's like just incredible.
So no words. Special.
This particular time was very special.
So
shout out to my buddies.
Is that Island. Your average?
I love you guys. Come on.
Is that your average, I guess, clutch size for goshawks is 2? Are you probably going to have 2 nestlings?
Dude, I don't, to be, like I said, when I just went through that long spiel about goshawk nests, I don't know really enough to know. I know they can have I believe as many as 4, I want to say, but that's very rare to have 4. And 3 is like a lot. And I guess maybe 2 would be average. I mean, that's a good question for the, I'm not going to say their names, the people that take us up there, because they have a lot more experience with nests, than me or most people I know. So, but I will say this, and I know this for a fact, that you're lucky that there's even any in the nest, because they get predated. And every nest that we find and that they find, we tin the tree. So we take sheet metal and we wrap the tree. It's like a standard sheet of sheet metal, like probably 24 inches, and you put it a certain height off the ground, and you tack it in or you tape it. Some people like to tape it, some people, so that you don't kill the tree. Because this year, actually, it was the same pair from the year before, and they used the exact same nest in the exact same tree, which was interesting.
That is interesting.
And that pair, there was 2 birds both years. All 3 years, there was 2, 2, and 2 from the same nest. They moved once, though. The first year, they were like 50 yards from the nest that they were currently at, which is pretty freaking cool. And
the nest that I pulled Cooper's Hawks from, that tree had like 3 nests in it, old nests.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
I got a question for you about the nest. What were they eating? What were the wild goshawks eating? Because I think that's one of the coolest things about finding a nest is seeing the food in it.
Oh, dude. I didn't climb because I wasn't pulling this year, so I didn't climb. And I'm a coward, so I tried to climb the first year. But I hooked everybody up with cameras, I'm that guy. So I got the GoPro, I got the 360 cam. I'm like putting them on their heads. I'm giving them directions and they want it too, because, climbing a goshawk nest is a very special thing. And it takes a lot of effort to get up that tree. And it's, I've never climbed a nest, so I can't know, but I'm sure those that are listening know, and they'll attest that it's a pretty nerve-wracking situation. And, you got to kind of mind your P's and Q's. So sometimes maybe some of the details of the whole situation are lost. So it's nice. So anybody that I said, you want to film it, you want to put a camera on, they're all like, yes, let's do it. And then they want to see the footage later. The one nest from last year that was found by a friend of mine on social media. I'm not going to say his name, but he knows who he is if he's listening. And he's awesome. And that nest had a full red squirrel carcass in it. Just sitting there. First, we thought it was a chipmunk. And then everybody was debating back and forth because it was just from the underside. But it was like every bit as big as the eyeass in the nest. And the eyeass was about maybe 10, 12 days old. And it was like bigger than the eyeass. So it was a female in that nest. So it was red squirrel in one. And then I don't think we found any other carcasses. But the part that really that I found super interesting, that I thought was like, besides the red squirrel, which goshawks can't catch squirrels, so everybody knows that it's too dangerous.
Right.
They don't eat squirrels; they eat butterflies. Because squirrel hawking with a goshawk is
cicadas.
They eat cicadas. They eat moths, various assortment of bugs. Yeah, they don't catch squirrels every single day of their lives in most areas. It's not part of their diet, as we all know, because it's taboo to hawk squirrels with goshawks, which is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, they take bark off of the trees and they line the nest meticulously with bark. Like they build it with
just beautifully lay it out.
Dude, it's like they build it with sticks, obviously, and some of the sticks are like the size of your pinky or your ring finger, not too big. Maybe, I'm a plumber, so probably like 1/2-inch copper, maybe a little smaller than that. And then there's all different size sticks in there. Then they line it. There's like pine branches and stuff in there. And then I don't know how they do it. I would like pay so much money to see a goshawk, like how they get the little pieces of bark, because they must be collecting little pieces of bark and flying back and just lining this, because it was like a perfect little carpet of bark in the nest, like under the bird's feet, which was super fascinating. If I could find the GoPro video, I think I have the video of it when we were reviewing it. So that's super cool. And then they also, from my research, they'll recycle the pine needles, because Steve Lehman, who we're going to get on the show, he's an incredible guy. He does so much good work with animal behavior. He's a super smart guy, like one of the smartest people I know. And he's actually doing a study, and I don't want to go into it too much because we're going to have him on and talk about it. But he has, and guys that fly, Gyrfalcons, goshawks, most people are kind of in the know that if your bird is presenting symptoms of Asper, you're suspicious of Asper. If you crush up a whole bunch of pine needles and line the inside of your hawking box with it and put your goss in there overnight, those the gases that are released from pine needles it kills off spores. It kills off the cells, the aspergillosis spores. So that's like, we kind of know that already, like anecdotally, from like your bird is presenting symptoms, it goes in the box, and then, you just keep doing that regimen, and then, it gets better. But now a college, of very prestigious college, has actually taken it on with their PhD students to study it, like to actually study it. And Steve yeah, dude, it's incredible because Steve he's been talking about this stuff, and I'm sure other guys have been talking about this stuff for many years. But just for me, personally, the person that I know that really pushes it is Steve Lehman, and he's had chickens. He's done all kinds of crazy experiments, and the pine needles legitimately like reverses aspergillosis in the lungs because they're breathing in those gases from the pine needles. And I forgot the name of the gases. I can't remember it right now. It's bothering me.
Isn't it like a tear or tar?
No, it's not a tar. It's like so every pine needle on a pine tree, when you break it open, there's like these gases in there. And that's what gives it that beautiful smell. And if you crush them up, it just gets it's like concentrated. And when the bird's breathing in, it's getting into the lungs where the disease is attacking, and it's counteracting that spore in the lungs and basically killing it. So hopefully, I kind of already know that what the results are going to be, but I don't know how long it's going to take for these studies, but hopefully pretty soon, as falconers, we'll know for a fact that pine needles is a very good treatment for Asper. And obviously, if it's late stage, then you got problems. But if you can catch it early or just use it, I mean, I put them in my hawking box when I'm going to the field. I try to keep lining it. But all that to say that the goshawks will, throughout the cycle of the birds being raised inside the nest, they've been documented bringing new pine needles back to the nest, even though it's not necessary. So it's super fascinating that they would do that. Like, why would they do that? You know what I mean? Like,
okay, so when you say recycle, they're cycling out the old for new ones? No,
they're just like pine needles, like on your Christmas tree. Like, they're just turning brown and falling and crumbling into nothing. So then they'll bring fresh ones and reline the nest with them. That's been documented. So why would they do that? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of evidence pushing towards the idea that pine needles will I want to say,
I don't know if they're smart enough for that. That's the thing.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Are they smart? You know what I mean? It's they know it's good for them. They're not doing it because they know that the gases in the pine needles are being released and it's helping stave off Asper. They're just doing it because they're the same reason why they would put little pieces of bark in the bottom of their nest. Why does a Carolina wren build this cute little tunnel into this awesome nest, in my shed?
Ask him.
I tried to catch him to ask him, but he wouldn't stop to talk. But you know what I'm saying? Like, animals do things that are just, why does a cat automatically go for the throat of whatever it's grabbing? You know what I mean? Like, do they know that it kills them? They eventually learn, but they instinctually do it. You give any kitten, like a stuffed animal, they're trying to grab it by the face and the throat. Like, that's an instinctual thing. So why would it be any different that a goshawk would, and other species too, will line their nest with pine needles? Maybe
because it's soft.
I don't know. Listen, it's a good point. Maybe it serves two purposes. You know what I mean? And they still get Asper and stuff like that. And then when they get stressed, it'll present. So it's not a cure. But that's why we want to have Steve on, because we want to ask him all these questions. It's going to be a very intense conversation.
I would love to hear more from him.
Yeah. So I'm not really the guy to talk about it. So if anyone's out there rolling their eyes or yelling at the camera, at the radio, giving me input, I'm not a subject matter expert on that, but I do know that I was told to do it, and I've never had a bird that had Asper, thank God, knock on wood. But I do it as a preventative measure. So when I'm driving to the field, I all season long, I'm always putting pine needles in my box.
Helps with the good boy, and he does as he's told.
Does what he's told, or gets the hose again. Yeah, dude.
Put the goshawk in the basket.
Yeah. Get the pine needles or the box, or you get the hose again. Just running around collecting pine needles like super fast.
Oh,
God.
I admit I don't do the pine needles, but I don't think it could hurt. So I see no reason not to do it.
Yeah, it definitely
if I had
can't
a
hurt.
pine tree in my yard, I probably would. I do not, though.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I don't. I have like not spruce. It's cedar. I got red cedar, and apparently the gases are still in any pine tree, but there's other pines I think that have more concentrated forms of it. So I don't have any of those. So every time I'm like driving by somebody's yard, like I'll just jump out and then jump back in the truck and keep driving.
Nice.
But yeah, Steve is he's done experiments where more or less he's overloaded chickens and stuff like that with the pine needles, attempting to see if there's a limit to how much they can take, and there is no limit. It can't hurt the bird at all.
Chickens are no limit soldiers.
Yeah. So that was my weekend. It was a very special time, and I'm super grateful.
I saw that
there.
disgusting video you posted of somebody pulling maggots out of the baby's ears.
Yeah, dude. It's apparently it's a very common thing. It's they're just. I mean, think about an eyeass. They're just sitting there. They're just laying there all day, and they're just eating food, and there's meat around, and there's flies everywhere. Anybody who's raised an eyeass out, and it's outside, there's flies all around, and apparently they just lay the eggs right next to the ear canal, and they hatch and wiggle their way in there, and then they just apparently so there's no like danger to it. Is what from what I've heard from everybody that has way more experience than I do, that there's no real danger to it. I'm sure there could be. But basically, they're just like eating bits of this and that in there until their life cycle is complete, and then they just fly out. I have heard that somebody was telling me that you can sometimes you got to check the skull of the chick, the eyeass, because sometimes they can get through, like they'll wiggle their way in between the skin and the skull and wiggle around under the skin for a while until they die. Isn't that disgusting, dude?
I think we just lost half of our listeners.
Isn't that just so nasty? As somebody's eating like a breakfast burrito right now on the way to work. Yeah, so
I think
that was
flat flies are disgusting enough.
Flat flies are nowhere near as bad as bot flies. That's literally the worst. Bot flies.
Have we talked about bot flies on here?
No, not that I know.
Early season rabbits.
Oh yeah, I've got them. I've had that. I thought it was like an alien from hell that like was on my rabbit one day when I was young, and I'm like, what? It terrified. To this day, it makes my skin crawl just seeing that disgusting thing hanging off the rabbit, like wiggling.
Well, the moment the rabbit dies, they just abandon ship. They're gone.
That's what happened.
They jump out immediately.
Yeah, they wiggle out of the little hole that's in there. If you guys want to really gross yourselves out, just go on like YouTube and type in botfly removal from human. You'll puke. It's disgusting. And then you'll instantly get itchy and not be able to sleep because you'll be scratching. And
if anybody feels like puking, go do that.
So basically the lifestyle of a botfly is the botfly will catch a fly or a mosquito or another flying bug that interacts with warm-blooded animals, and they will catch them, I believe, in midair and stick the egg to the underside of the mosquito or the fly and then let it go. And then they'll land on you or a squirrel or a rabbit and try to suck its blood, and the warmth from the skin stimulates the egg enough for the egg to hatch and the larva to pop off, fall onto the skin, and then burrow into the skin, dude. And then they worm their way in there and they build a little cave with a little breathing hole in your skin, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then they just pop out and freaking fly away and catch another mosquito and lay their egg. It's disgusting. Dude. I don't even know why they exist, man. If I could wave a wand and get rid of leeches and ticks and botflies, I would wave that wand in 2 seconds. I don't care what the consequences would be.
You don't
so
care
disgusting.
You don't care what little birds die because that's their food source.
Honestly, no, because they're so disgusting. They're so nasty.
I've never heard anybody down here getting botflies, a human. But
yeah,
if you catch a rabbit, as soon as the season opens, they'll probably have botflies on them.
Is it very common down by you to have that?
Pretty damn common.
Yeah, I've seen videos of squirrels having like 3 of them hanging off of them. It's so disgusting.
All right. Yeah. So we probably have lost everyone at this point.
Sorry. So they're just so nasty, man.
So goshawks. I think that's what you're known for at this point, other than being an asshole as goshawks.
I was just going to say, yeah. So you hit the nail on the head then, yeah.
What is it about goshawks that speaks to you so much?
I'm probably going to offend a lot of people here when I say this, apparently. But no, I just, in all seriousness, I just think that they require a level of attention to detail that other birds don't. But that's not really why, though. Actually, you know what I mean? That's not really why I fly goshawks, because they require more attention to detail and whatever. I fly them because of the way that they perform in the field, I think. Okay, so I'm trying to think of how to piece this together in a way that is nice, that sounds nice. But so I fly goshawks because my sponsor Phil had one, and he was real busy with work, and he has, a kid on the way, and it was whatever. And this was like maybe 8 years ago. And he said, why don't you just take the brancher and just go fly her? You'll have fun. She'll fly with anybody. And I'm like, yeah, man. Okay, fine. And I just got married. I just moved to a new place, and I was trying to get my Muse set up and stuff like that. So he's like, just drive to my house. We'll just do all the paperwork, and just drive to my house, pick up the bird, go hawk it. He's like, I don't have time. He's like, just leave it in my Muse. Just go pick it up, go to the field, go fly it. So I did that. I would just pick the bird up and just, it was a little sketched at first. And I literally just go out to the field, and I think it botched the first duck slip or whatever. And then like the next hunt we went out on, it just like smoked this duck. And just the way it left my glove and just went from 0 to like, 40 miles an hour in like seconds, not even a second, and grabs this duck. It was like literally walking through the woods with a shotgun, like just ready to go. And I was like, I have to do this. This is so cool. This is so awesome. So I flew that bird. I caught a whole bunch of stuff with it. Squirrels, rabbits, ducks, like it didn't matter. And I'm, this is coming from a guy that flew red tails this whole, falconry. And, the way that I described it to Phil, because he asked me, how I felt about it after the season ended. And I mean, we were talking every day and stuff like that, but we still talked every day to this day constantly, which is a special thing to have with your sponsor, that he becomes basically like, your family. And I just said this is the way that I said it, is that the goshawk, it does everything that a red tail can do, or it does everything that a red tail can do, obviously faster and more athletically, but it does what you wish it could do during the hunt. So when your red tail is chasing a squirrel and that squirrel jukes the red tail and it misses and lands on the ground, and then the squirrel takes off running through the woods, and then the red tail's got to get back up and pump and try to catch it. The goshawk, just like, it's already on its ass the second it misses. It's back up and chasing again. So it's like, it does everything that you wish your red tail could do. So for me, it's just like, after that little jaunt I had with that goshawk, I just was like, I have to do this. So I got another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And I just keep going crazy with goshawks. And I just am obsessed with them just because of the way they perform in the field. But so this is what I was saying, is a byproduct of the way they perform in the field is that you have to kind of mind your P's and Q's when you're flying them, because especially imprints, they have a tendency to be, a little aggressive depending on how you raise them or how the person that you got it from raised them. And they're hard on their feathers. So you got to kind of pay attention to their housing, their husbandry, the box that you're transporting them in. The box may not work. You may have to switch to another box. You got to feel the bird out. Some guys I know just hood their bird and put it, in the center of the back of the truck, so that it can just kind of bounce around and not break its feathers. I know, like, falconers that fly goshawks kind of put up with a lot, and it's all probably, I would say, it's, for me at least, it's all for that, like, that performance, that rabbit kicking up at your feet, and then this bullet just ripping off your glove and just smoking it like 10 feet away from you. It's like the sickest, awesome feeling. Like, it's the best feeling ever. It's so cool. I just can't get enough of it, to be honest. And I'm like addicted to it.
I remember when I got my when I experienced a good bit of success with my female, and I told my sponsor, like, I can't explain it, but there's just something about this bird that is just like magical to me.
Yeah, man.
And he said, well, for starters, you've got a real hawk. You don't have a buzzard like everybody else has.
Even though, yeah, it's true. They are buzzards. Technically, they're buzzards. Shout out Ben Woodruff. He made a whole video on that. How red tails are buzzards, and they're not vultures. It's a buzzard.
His split level house.
Yeah, with his cape and his.
Anytime I watch that, I'm like, I know this dude's layout of this dude's house 100%. He's sitting in the split level, like with his back. His back is to like the stairs.
Yeah,
and then behind him, you see like a lion skin or something like that.
He's got a bunch of skins, a bunch of skulls. He's got the saber-tooth skull. He's got the poncho on with the cool designs on it. He's an interesting guy. But he made a whole video on that, on how the red-tailed hawk it's a buzzard. Like, from a traditional standpoint, it's a buzzard. And a buzzard does not mean a vulture like we kind of bastardized the word in America. When somebody says buzzard, we think of, vulture, and that's not what it means, which is interesting. It's a cool discussion.
So would you agree there's something other than their abilities in the field? Would you agree there's just something kind of special about goshawks?
I mean, obviously, 100%. I don't want to alienate the whole audience that flies red tails. Like, I love red tails. Like, I've flown them my whole life. They're awesome. But it could, what it could be, dude? It could be the scarcity of them, that it's like they're kind of hard to acquire. You either have to spend all this money to get one, or you have to do what I just laid out earlier in the conversation of going to these crazy remote places in the middle of nowhere to try to find a nest, and you got to figure out how to climb it without killing yourself. And the female's going to smash you as you're going up. And it's just like, and just when you're looking at them, they're just, especially when they're an adult, like an adult plumage. I mean, even when they're not an adult, man, you just look at them and those eyes and the way they're moving, they're just like cocked and ready to go. They just look athletic. It's like looking at a greyhound. Like, you look at a greyhound and you're just watching, like, it's just, I mean, any working dog. Like, I feel like that when I look at Seth's Cocker Spaniel. It's like, it's just a beautiful animal, the way it moves and the way it interacts. And that could be because of my obsession with them or whatever. But I feel as though they're special. I mean, scarcity brings, I don't know how to say it in a beautiful way, but something that's scarce is more special. So goshawks are not common unless you're buying them. And I would say that a huge majority of the people that fly them, and myself included, if you weren't buying them, you wouldn't be flying them, because not everybody can find a nest, and I love the messages I get from people. Yeah, I think I'm going to fly a goshawk this year. Any advice? And I'll just say, well, you got to read a bunch of books and, get with somebody that
money.
No, but that's the funniest part is they say, oh, I said, read books, get with a mentor. My biggest advice to anybody who wants to fly an accipiter or a goshawk, get with a mentor that's done it with success, and ask them, can I annoy you and harass you? And will you talk me through this process? Because without Phil, I was on the phone with him like constantly after every day of the hack, after every day of raising this, the first couple birds I was raising, I was on the phone with him every single day. I was on the phone with Connor. I was on the phone with all these guys. And I'm just like, okay, she's doing this. She's doing that. And they're just talking. Okay, she's on the baggie. She's mantling like crazy. She's screaming. She's all amped up. I just called her in from hack. What do I do? Oh, just give her some space. How does she look? Fill me in on the way she's moving. What is she doing? You know what I mean? Like, if you have somebody that you can talk to, it's going to be like a cheat code, because you can move through the whole steps a lot smoother without any crazy mishaps or, aggression issues, and you can work through the problems before they arise. And that's why I like imprints particularly, because it's gradual. Like, you get the chick, it's just a little downy, and then you get to watch the behavior increase, and you can kind of get out in front of it and kind of mold it based off of the way you're seeing stuff that you don't like, which is cool. And what was the question? Dude, I just started going into trance, bro.
You started talking about how you get some funny messages from people.
My eyes just glazed over for a second. Then I was just rambling. Bro, I was just rambling. Yeah, dude, I get messages. They're like, I'm going to fly a goshawk this year. I'm like, oh, awesome. You getting it from a breeder or something? No, I'm going to find a nest this spring and I'm going to fly a goshawk this year. I'm really excited. I got all my gear ready. I go, do you have a nest located? Do you know of an area that's good? No, but I'm just going to go find one. I mean, come on. And I'm like, good luck. I mean, I had probably 10 messages like that over the years on Instagram. And every single one of them never found a nest. And I think one of them found a nest because somebody helped him out. Like a friend of theirs, like knew a guy who knew a guy, and they were able to pull a bird. But that's the only way it's going to work unless you're out there pounding mountains every year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And each area is different. You know what I mean? I've gotten in a debate with some guy about this, that they're like, finding a goshawk is not that hard. And then I just took a screenshot of upstate New York, which is like the closest area to me where there's pretty decent goshawk numbers. And I just said, oh yeah, where's the goshawk nest here? And it was like 100 square miles from a satellite picture. And it's all perfect habitat the entire way across. And I'm like, so where do you think the goshawk is? And then I took a screenshot of wherever I forgot where he was. I think it was New Mexico or Nevada, but it wasn't Tyler. It was somebody else. And basically, if you screenshot, it's all desert. And then when you get up in the mountains, there's like pockets of pines and good habitat. And I'm like, okay, well, the goshawk's going to be somewhere in this patch. And if it's not in that patch, you're going to go to that patch. When you're in the middle of nowhere, everything is good. Like most of it is good. So like, it's like a luck of the draw. It's finding a needle in a haystack. You could hike for the rest of your life and never find a
the
nest.
entire Northeast, like past New York, is goshawk nesting habitat, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. And it's super dense up there. It's big, open. It's big, not open, but big, big vast swaths of land. And they could literally be anywhere. And I'm driving up to check a lead, or I'm going up to check a spot that they've been in before. And then I looked on the satellite that there's probably another good spot here. I like this spot. Let's check this spot when we go up to check that spot. And I'm driving up there for 2.5 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm probably driving by like a dozen nests on the way up here. Like, look at this mountain. Look at that, man. I could pull over and walk through there. It's probably just as good as over there. How do you know? You know what I mean? It's like, it's incredible. I know of one falconer, he tried to print and he's clever and he's a funny guy. And when I say this, a lot of people will know who he is, but I'm not going to say his name. But he printed up like these flyers and people were like giving him crap for it. But I'm like, dude, it's a good idea. He printed up these flyers that said, if you get attacked by this bird, call this number. And he put them at trailheads in good areas, like good goshawk habitat. And everyone was giving him all this crap. Like, why are you doing that? I'm like, dude, that's like this awesome, that's a clever idea. You know what I mean? Put an ad in the newspaper. I'm like, dude, you should have put a reward on there. I don't know if there was a reward, but you know what I mean? It's like.
And it didn't work? Is that what you said?
I don't know if it worked. I never asked him. Maybe we can have him on and ask him. But I remember people were giving him all this hard time about it. I'm like, when you want to find a goshawk nest, man, you'll like almost do damn near anything to find it. You know what I mean? You get a tip from somebody that they saw, like you go on a forum and somebody saw this bird there and you're like, where? And then you like, now you're on the satellite looking, okay, maybe they were nesting there. What direction was it flying? Okay. Oh, the nest is probably over there. You know what I mean? Like you go crazy. You're like a psychopath, like trying to find where the nest is. And there's not many people that are like that. And I'm not claiming I'm like that. I am like that, but I'm not saying it in any kind of elitist way. But I'm saying that people that do that kind of stuff and they are successful with it, it's a really special thing because not a lot of people do that. They put their bird up for the molt and they go to the beach with their family. They're not out there doing that stuff. Really good story, I will say, from the husband and wife that find all these nests. Such a cool story he was telling me in the Jeep when we were driving. He's a logger. He's a mechanic for a logging company. So he's always in the middle of nowhere, like fixing trucks and machines. And
that's a good job for that.
Yeah. So he was with his boss and they were surveying. He does surveying too. So he was surveying a piece of land where they were getting ready to log. And he sees these two ravens. There's ravens everywhere up there, like all over the highway, eating stuff, crows all over. And he sees these two ravens flying towards him. And the raven is like screaming its head off, like with that crazy noise they make. And then he's standing there for a minute looking and he realizes it's a freaking goshawk chasing it. So he's watching it right there with his boss. And he took a mental note of where he was. Second he got home and he went in the door, he got on like Google Earth and he looked. It was the perfect time of year. And he looked like where they were flying from that direction. So they were coming this way. dude found the nest. He went back. He found a piece of woods that had mature forest, and he went in there and he found the freaking nest. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that freaking crazy? That's so, to me at least, that's just so cool. Like,
Yeah, that was luck.
it was luck and somebody paying attention to detail at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Saw that bird doing that, and I didn't ask him, but I don't know if the bird was flying in a predatory way or if it was flying in a get out of my territory way. And it was a full adult female, and he found the nest, you know, like a week later or something, he found the nest. So it's just cool. And I mean, it's not a comparison and it's not a competition. What bird is cooler and what bird is better? And I know that, you know, I've gotten some feedback that we talk about goshawks too much and we kind of like romanticize them a little bit, but and that's fine. And I love a good red tail. I mean, there's nothing better than a good red tail crushing a rabbit, you know what I mean? Coming out of the tree and smashing it. It's just like, red tails are awesome. They're like, realistically, a red tail is probably like the best falconry bird. And everyone says, oh, Harris. No, not the Harris hawk, because when you're up in Maine and you're up in New York and you're up in New Jersey and it's 10 degrees outside and you want to go catch rabbits, you got like 45 minutes till that Harris hawk wants to go back in the truck. So it's not the best bird. Sorry.
Yeah, you could fly a red tail in Louisiana or Maine.
Exactly. You could fly in the desert. You could soar hawk it in California. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff with them. They're super incredible birds, and I love them to death. But I'm just saying that I drive on the way home from work. I got a nest. It's been there ever since I moved to my new place, and there's a nest there every year. She's sitting on the eggs. I see the tail, then I see the heads every year. Like, that ain't happening with a goshawk. Like, you're not like you got to work to find a goshawk nest. Like, it's not. So as I was saying earlier, it's like it's scarcity that makes it special. So like, if goshawks were nesting everywhere, would it be as special? I don't know. I mean, for me, I would say yes. But if you could have a goshawk at the drop of a hat whenever you wanted, you know, or you could just go with certainty, I'm going to trap a goshawk today and just go out and trap one, then maybe your perspective on it would change a little bit differently. But for me, and knowing how much work it takes to find a nest and to train them and to enter them, it's like, to me, I find it very special, and I don't want to be annoying about it, but that's the way I feel. You know, I really don't want to be. I don't want to be too late.
Way too late.
Guess. I guess. You know.
You mentioning the red tail nest a couple years ago on the way home, I saw on the way home from work. I saw before the leaves came in. I noticed a huge nest in a pine tree. So I took note of it and came back when there should be babies. I just made the assumption it was red tails, just because, you know, red tails always nest in a big pine on the edge of the woods.
Yeah. Well, depending where you are, but
down here. Yeah. So I took note of it and I came back and they were eating young groundhogs.
No way.
There were young groundhog carcasses laying around the tree, you know, half eaten.
Wow. That's super cool.
Yeah. And the parents were pissed that I was below the tree.
Did they come after you?
They did not, but they were mad. They made their presence known.
That's cool.
And that tree was just wrapped in poison ivy. Could you imagine like a goshawk nest wrapped in poison ivy? What would people do?
Well, I don't really get poison ivy, which is
lucky you.
Yeah,
you'd be going up that tree if it was me and you.
Oh yeah, I mean, if there's a goshawk in the tree,
I get it so bad I couldn't mess with it.
Yeah, some people get it real bad, and it ends up like debilitating their life for like 3 months until they get rid of it. But for me, I get it, and it itches a little bit, and then it just goes away. Like, I'm lucky, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't. I just don't scratch it, and it doesn't really. And I just kind of like avoid it, and then it just goes away. So
I'm cringing worse than the botfly conversation.
Yeah. I know some people. Dude, I knew this kid, bro, that would get it. Like, he had to go to the hospital when we were kids. And I remember somebody jumped in the pool and there was like a pool party and the oil must have gotten on the water. And dude, this kid had to like go to the hospital like a week later, like his whole face and his ears and his eyeballs and like his neck, bro. It was like, he looked like a leper and he had to go to the hospital. It was terrible. I feel for those people.
Yeah. I don't think I'm that bad, but I do hate it. I get it. Anyway,
yeah.
That's enough about poison ivy.
Okay.
So goshawks, they're special.
Yes.
I think special is the word of the day on this episode.
Okay.
Yeah. How many
Agreed.
have you had at this point?
Not a tremendous amount. I flew my sponsors, Petrie, the Finnish Tiersoul. Then I had Karen, who I learned a lot from Petrie. I caught a couple head with him, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't hack him either, which I think didn't help. It just made it worse. And he was small too, so I was trying to catch like mallards, and it's obviously not really the best bird for squirrels. And I wasn't running my dog at the time because my dog was retired, so I didn't even have a dog to run. So I'm just trying to like manually put rabbit slips in front of this bird, and I was living in an area with no rabbits, or rabbits that are hard to get. So it was hard to enter them. You know what I mean? So I just put like probably 200 slips in front of him. The whole season, I probably put like 200-300 slips in front of him, legitimately. Before he even grabbed his first, which was a hen, it was probably at least 75 slips before he grabbed it. I'm talking money slips too, like walking right up to him and they're flushing. And he wouldn't fly out. He would fly and then check off. Then he'd fly and touch. Then he'd fly and touch. Then he'd check off. Then he'd fly and touch. And then literally just like one day he just grabbed it. And after talking to a bunch of people, that seems like the consensus is that it's like 50 to 75 slips before they grab one.
Did he turn on after that?
Yeah, yeah. Like he semi turned on. He caught that one. Then he probably botched another 20 slips or so. Then he caught another one. Then he caught another. We only caught like less than 10 ducks that year. I just didn't know what I was doing, man. And you know what I mean? And that's just the simple fact of the matter is I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, 10 ducks is more than most people are ever
I guess, but
get.
when you're going after ducks, solely going after ducks, you'd think you'd catch more than that. Like I wasn't going out squirrel hawking with him. I was trying to do rabbits with him, but he never really chased him, and he wouldn't really chase him with any enthusiasm. And I wasn't putting enough in front of him to really get him going on him. And I did a couple bags here and there. And speaking of bags, I personally feel that the reason that bird turned out so poorly was, and I'm not saying that that McDermott's stuff doesn't work or that I'm talking any type of trash about it, because a lot of his concepts are like right on the money. But he does say to do a lot of baggies, and maybe I wasn't reading between the lines enough, and I was just doing like captive bred quail baggies every single day, like 3 times a day. And I mean, that bird would chase a baggie like his life depended on it. But when it came to like a wild, powerfully flying, pheasants, he would chase like, but when there was a duck that was clearly wild and strong, he really didn't really want much to do with it. So I think I may have just overbagged him, and that's a common thing. You can overbag a bird, but like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I kind of like botched the whole thing. So I sold that bird I kept him for the second season, and then he caught a couple more ducks the second season, and then he kind of doing the whole thing, and I had a kid. My child was just born, so I'm going out trying to put slips in front of this bird, and he's just like not grabbing slip after slip after slip, just not grabbing them, and I'm like, I'm sacrificing time for my family's birds, not chasing anything. So I ended up just selling him to a kid in PA. And I haven't heard anything. I don't know if he's doing anything with that bird. But if he had quail and pheasant out there, he would clean up with them because he loved like little like stuff like that. And that game bird wing beat, he really liked it. He did the mallards he didn't like. He was just a small bird. He flew at like 680-ish. I mean, he just was like a little small bird. Like I got in an argument with a guy at a falconry meet because he was telling me I have a Cooper's hawk. And I wasted my money. It was so funny. That's how small he was. He's like, that's a Cooper's hawk, man. That's a Cooper's hawk. I'm like, dude, I literally paid $1,500 for this. It better not be a Cooper's hawk. He's like, you pissed your money away, boy. And I'm like, no, it was a Finnish goshawk, and but he was that small. He was tiny. So I thought Finnish means bigger, and Finnish doesn't always mean bigger.
It does not.
I love all my breeders out there, but when a breeder tells you the weight that the bird's going to fly at, just deduct like 80 to 100 grams off that number. I'm just saying. It's so common, man. It's so common. And the breeder, I talked to him and stuff, but he told me I would catch squirrels, everything with it. And then this thing is like this dinky little tiercel, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? I need to be killing quail with this thing.
He sounds like a cute little bird. He
was cool. Yeah, I'll post a video about it. Sharing it, but he was a fun bird, and my wife liked him because he was like little Petrie from you know where that name is from, right?
Land Before Time,
the cowardly little
pterodactyl.
And so then I got him. So then I got Karen, and I said to myself, I'm never doing another baggie with a bird again. And it was like a last minute thing. I wasn't even going to buy it. And Keith had an extra bird, which he never does now, conveniently. Wonder why. And he posted like 3 females that he had left over or something like that. And I DM'd him like immediately, and I said how much, and we went back and forth, and I kind of like lowballed him. And then he was like, he messaged me back, and he's like, if you want the bird, send the check now. I'll take other orders until the check is in my hand and it clears. So I freaking overnighted him the check, got the check, and then I drove like 11 hours there and 11 hours back in one day and got her. And she was a freaking beast. She was a beast. I raised that bird in total isolation, completely separate from humans. And if anyone's seen that bird fly and have seen it fly in person and seen the videos, that's a bird that was raised with no socialization, except for a little bit here and there. I would bring it in the house when I was cleaning out the little chamber, and I would just put food in at night to it. So I did the opposite of what everybody says to do, mainly because my wife refused to have it in the house. We had a very small, like I said on Jeremy Jones' episode, I lived in a double wide for a while, just saving money like crazy. And she didn't want it in the house. It was too small and she just couldn't deal with it. And I respect that. It was fine. So I put it outside. Yeah, I know. Me neither. but you gotta be diplomatic when you're married.
So what kind of goshawk was it?
It was a Finnish Siberian, and it was a Butyoides. So I think the albitus was, I think it was a Finnish Butyoides crossed with an albitus tiercel, and that tiercel came from Mark Moglich, who is a great guy, and I've flown 3 of his birds also. So it's from really good stock. Okay, so I'll just run you through it. I did no association with the bird. I literally, dude, if people see this, they would freaking die laughing or just get really pissed off or like start yelling at me. I had my tiercel Petrie on a run line during the molt, and I had a platform on one corner, platform in the other corner, 10 feet square, and I built in front, right behind the platform, so like right where the triangle point would be, I built it out into a completely enclosed capsule with plexiglass in the front. So if Petrie's standing on the front of the platform, he can look into the glass and see the eyeass in there. Okay. So I put the nest bowl in there, completely sealed in, and I put a trap door so I could put food in there and get the bird in and out. So Petrie was on a run line, so he couldn't obviously get to her anyway, but it was completely sealed in if something were to happen. And people are probably freaking out right now listening to this.
That's a weird way to do it, dude.
And it was completely safe. There was no way the bird could get there. It was I built it all out of 2x4s and everything. And I'm a plumber, so I can build stuff. I'm an idiot. And at night I would put a frozen quail on Petrie's platform right in front of the plexiglass, and I would put a plate of frozen solid cut up quail in the box with Karen. And then in the morning, I would check in the camera and they would both be eating in front of each other. So after a while, it'd get gross in there and stuff like that. And so I would take her out. I probably took her out maybe 4 or 5 times probably 4 times, because there's only, a goshawk is fully feathered and jumping around in 3-4 weeks, not even. So I probably only took her out 3 times, and I would just put her inside, clean the whole thing out, scrub it, make it all nice, and then put her directly back in there. Did no baggies with her at all. Didn't take her in my car once. Then I put her in a weathering area with a bunch of perches while she was kind of hopping around, where the feathers were maybe 2 bars, 3 bars coming down, until she was almost hard penned. And then I started doing box exercises with her, and I would put food in the box and make her jump in and out of the box. Then I did a hack, took her to a park, cut her loose after work, go home, hang out with my baby and my wife, and then, go back, 45 minutes before dark and call her down. Did that. And then I just entered it on squirrels. And the whole time while she was hacking, I was in squirrel infested woods. So she was chasing those squirrels all day long, constantly. And that ended up being one of my best birds I've ever had, and caught game at the Maryland meet in front of 25, 30 people, zero difference really compared to any other bird I've flown. There was really no difference. And I always say, and I like to joke, that Keith's birds kind of train themselves. And that's more of a joke for Harrison, our buddy, who got one of Keith's birds, and he did so well with it. But the bird was just a very gamey, incredible bird. And that kind of helped shape my philosophy, and my sponsor, Phil, my mentor for goshawks as well. he kind of does that method too, because he's got 5 kids and a job, and his birds turn out completely fine and well socialized anyway. So it's kind of like, there's 2 trains of thought. Like, do you need to do that or do you not need to do that? I guess it depends on the bird, but I mean, anecdotally, I guess I didn't need to do that with her because she turned out completely fine.
Maybe with more spooky subspecies or species of goshawk.
Yeah, like North Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very high strung.
You may need to be around them more.
I could definitely see that. And my bird, this current bird, Betsy, she's phenomenal, but she was around she was in my house. She was outside. She was with my son. She was in the box. She was in the house. She was in the car, and she's still a little uptight. You know what I mean? So yeah, the subspecies difference may make a difference with how they progress. So I flew Karen, and I'm not going to get into detail on every bird. Then I flew Karen. Then I flew Karen for 2 years. Then she killed herself chasing a rabbit, hit a window. It wasn't even a window. It was a little cube in the middle of a junkyard next to a giant, beautiful hedgerow hunting field. You would think it would be completely safe, but the rabbit knew that the junkyard would be safe, and it flew in there, and she hit that thing full speed and died on impact. So then I was really upset, obviously. And then I purchased a pure albitus from somebody on Raptor's Nest. It was a hand-me-down bird. It was entered correctly, I believe, and the person that had it last, I don't know really what happened to that bird, but it was extremely, I mean, when I picked it up in Kentucky and drove home with it, it was a 10-hour drive, and it bounced around for 9.5 hours of that drive in the box. So I purchased a made bird, by the way. So
made of what?
Yeah, made of rocks, apparently, because it didn't kill itself in there. I don't know how. And that bird was great, and I flew that bird for that whole season, and we didn't really catch much, to be honest. It's just she was entered on jacks out west, and then put up in a chamber because of time constraints, and then subsequently sold to the guy in Kentucky. And he didn't say this. Well, he did say this. He said he wasn't really prepared for what he got, and he didn't really know how to deal with it. So he just wanted to give it to another home after a full season. But I could clearly see, at least in my terrain, she didn't know her ass from her elbow. I mean, it was just rabbits running all over the place, and she was just couldn't get her feet on anything.
I think you had her the first time I went hunting with you.
Yeah, when was that? How long ago was that?
Was that what? Was it 2 or 3 years ago? At this point,
where were we?
Jersey with Teddy.
No, that was Talvi. That was the other white bird.
Okay, another dumb white bird.
Yeah, she was a hand-me-down bird too, but she did good. So I had Phoenix, which was the pure albitus. She was fine. You know, I did a lot of layman stuff with her to try to get her aggression and her behavioral issues down. So Steve Lehman was huge in helping me with that, and we'll get into that with when he comes on. All the details of that. It's going to be like a super intense. You're going to have to think when you listen to that, because
it's very intense. Nerds only.
No, for any bird, man. I mean, Harrison said he used it for his Harrowshawk, and the thing stopped chasing his dog around. There's little things you can do that will just cut corners and like cheat codes to get the bird to behave in a certain way that you want. And birds of prey are very instinctual, and they want to take the path of least resistance. So if you can teach them with a couple tidbits that acting a certain way doesn't get the tidbit, if you act this way, you get the tidbit, they learn pretty quick. I mean, you know what I mean? So I just followed everything he said. And I'd put my earbuds in and have him on the phone while she's on the fist, and he'd be asking me every move she's making, and he'd be talking me through it. He's like, "Okay, did her feathers slightly go down?" I'm like, "Not really, but a little bit." So, "Okay, we'll just keep walking around your yard on the Koreans. Keep walking around the yard." I said, "Okay, her hackles went down a little bit. Okay, flick the tidbit. Boom, flick the tidbit. Goes out and get it." Dude, I did that for like 2 weeks, bro, and she's sitting on the glove like a champ, just walking through the field, because she realized being aggressive and acting crazy on the glove gets her nowhere. If she sits calmly, the tidbit appears. It's a very simple concept, but you have to kind of like listen to what he's saying and kind of understand. So I had that bird, and I still have that bird. I don't have it now. I just shipped it up to Washington for a breeding project. And then from her, I got my Tiercel, the beautiful Tiercel, Russian albitus from Mark Moguch. It's a phenomenal bird. It was progressing to be my favorite bird. Flew at like 740 grams, and we caught, I think, like a whole bunch of squirrels. I think like 10 or 12 squirrels and like 20 rabbits. and a woodcock. And then he just landed on the wrong power line and got cooked. And it was a safe spot too. Like I posted the aerial view of the spot I was at, and then I circled the power line, and it was like literally completely out of the field. Like he just randomly landed on it. Like, like if I didn't fly that field because of that power line, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, it's just like, it's a giant, huge, like 100-acre giant hunting field. Like I'm not going to hit it because of power line that's like a quarter mile, three-quarters of a mile away. You know what I mean? Like it was just a freak accident.
Most of us don't have the luxury to fly perfectly safe places all the time.
That's 100%, dude. And I mean, good luck telling people that were critical of me what happened. So that bird died. And then that's when I got Talvi. So the gentleman reached out to me and he loved that bird to death, and he still does. And she was a great bird. She was good. He did a lot of work with her. So she was a phenomenal bird. And right out of the box, man, we did one baggie, and right out of the box, she was catching squirrels and rabbits and everything else. She was just a phenomenal bird. And that was another Keith Hicks bird. That was a same exact thing as, it was the sister, it was the half sister to Karen. So I thought it was really cool. So I got her. And then after her, I got, was it Betsy after I got her? Yeah, I think it was. I've only flown like six or so goshawks.
Your Tiercel died early season, and you got Talvi as kind of an emergency.
Yeah, it was he reached out to me. He said, "Listen, I'm moving. I don't have time really. If you want this bird, let's meet out in Ohio and pick her up." So I drove out to Ohio and I picked her up. I think it was like PA border, like on the far end.
So you've done a lot with goshawks in kind of a relatively short time.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, when you make it like your life and you're in the field the majority of the season, except for like a day here and there, a week. I mean, you kind of learn, and you care about what you're doing, and you're listening and talking to people, and you're trying to work out issues, and you're just constantly flying goshawks. Then you've got curiosity. You're not assuming you know everything. No, you can't. And I mean, even after this past season, catching 100 head without even really trying that hard and ending a month plus early from the season, and still catching 100, like I still feel like, maybe her behavior wasn't perfect. There's like little tweaks here and there. I mean, we only broke one feather the whole season, and that was like, we had a stress fracture. So like, there's certain, like you can't get cocky. Like people may think I think I'm cocky, but I'm not. Like I feel like I'm still learning, and I'm constantly asking questions. So I just want to be good at flying goshawks. I just want to fly goshawks well. And be able to fix. My big thing is I want to be able to fix problems that arise without having to call 50 people to fix it. And I'm almost there. I'm pretty much there.
I definitely leaned on you for my goshawk this past year. And you, even though you've never flown a chamber raise, you still told me a lot of things that helped me out tremendously. So you've done a lot in, 10 years flying goshawks?
I mean, like 7 years. Yeah.
So you've been on multiple podcasts at this point, other people's podcasts.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish somebody would have asked you?
I really wish somebody would have asked me how much I bench press at the gym.
Yeah, well, maybe some other time.
No, please ask me.
Not today.
No.
How about anything else?
It's 4:05 for anyone listening.
Oh,
but yeah,
good Lord.
Yeah, but that's the only strong part of my body. Everything else is weak. I mean, there's not really anything I could think of. I mean, I was, I've been a falconer for a long time. Ever since I was a young kid, 12 years old, I was interested in it. And a year later, or a year and a half later, I got my permit. 2006. Phil Leo was my sponsor. Everything was very it was very intense. Like I had to do everything a certain way, and he wasn't demanding or demeaning, but it was a specific standard, and he set the standard real early, and like the way to fly, the way to conduct myself, to always be in the field. If you're not going to fly, then get rid of the bird and take time off, and don't be a falconer, because you got to hunt. If you're not hunting, you're kind of just, so like a lot of stuff, and to do stuff properly. Not cut corners in anything that you do. And that's the way Paul and his brother Phil are. They're very like meticulous, and they're like, I know other people that are like guys in the plumbing, in my field of plumbing, like other plumbers, and they're like they could just save so much money and so much time cutting a corner, and they just refuse to cut the corner. And then I've learned from that too, coming up as a plumber, like don't cut corners because it's going to bite you in the ass. So that was good. So I did that. I mean, we did a TV show when I was younger, when I was like an apprentice. I think my second year, I was this TV show called Magnificent Obsessions. Met somebody that knew Paul and Phil or Teddy, and then it was like literally a whole episode of a TV show, and they came out and filmed, and that was fun. Yeah,
just you?
Yeah, just me by myself, just me. They're like, no, it wasn't just me. It was everybody. I was like the sideshow.
What, Teddy and Paul and Phil were on it too?
Teddy, Paul, Phil, Rick DeVore. If anybody knows Rick, shout out to Rick. I love Rick. I think Brian Bradley may have been part of it, but it was real fun. We went out to all these fields. They got a couple real nice flights of my red tail, doing like stooping down and catching a rabbit, and Teddy's Harris Hawk over the dogs catching a rabbit, goshawks catching rabbits. And it was just like a little episode. And it's a TV show. They do like skydiving and like scuba diving and people who like race airplanes. Like it was just like remote control airplanes. And then they just did an episode on falconry randomly.
Is it on YouTube?
If you look it up on YouTube, you'll find like a clip. It's like a 45-minute or an hour-long video, episode. But the clip, I think it's just like maybe Paul and Phil, like maybe just talking. And it's just like a little brief little thing. But there's a whole like 45-minute video somewhere of that episode. And that was a lot of fun, And I remember I looked like a complete idiot because they're like, so being so new, like, how is this going? And I'm like, I couldn't look at the camera, and I had like acne on my face, and I was all insecure, and I was like, yeah, I'm working really hard to like manage the weight. And it was just like really funny,
Crying.
I started like crying, and then just like is drooling and stuff. No, it was fun, It was a lot of fun. And then we had like a big back in the good old days, when everybody had more time, like we did a big watch party, and Teddy came over, my mom, like we all like went to Paul and Phil's house, and we everybody brought like wild game dishes, and we had this big party, and all these other falcons were there, and then we were all just dying laughing, watching everybody's interview, and they left stuff in that was just so embarrassing, and we're all like yelling and laughing. It was just it was fun. That's a fun thing that that most people don't really know about me. Not that I was really involved, really. I mean, I had a little piece in there, but it was fun. I mean, a lot of things, I said this before, but it's unique that I used to ride my bike to go hawking. I used to put my red tail on my handlebars and just drive to the woodlot and catch squirrels and then go home.
Did you have a hawk box, or was it hooded?
No, I was on a BMX bike, and I had a hooded red tail on my glove, and I would just steer with like the bottom part of my hand on the handlebar.
That's dedication right there.
Yeah, I was just like I guess I'm just one of those people with an obsessive personality. So when I like do something, I just go like a little bit too much. Like I got into like fitness pretty hard when I was single. And, I was like super shredded and all this and that. Like, I just like go hard on certain things. But falconry is one thing that when I was a kid, man, I couldn't, like, I'd fly my bird and catch a squirrel, man. I would just not be able to fall asleep at night thinking about going out the next day to go fly again. Like I was like totally obsessed, and I'm still the same way. We went up to, bro, I went to sleep at 3:30 in the morning the night before we were leaving. I couldn't sleep. I was too excited. You know what I mean? Like I can
concur you're obsessed.
Yeah, and other people are like that too, and it's just like I just love falconry. I just love
a little bit of that in me too.
Yeah, but you seem like you have more self-control than I do. You'll keep me on track a little bit, talking about getting a bird. And I'm like, I think I'm going to get another bird. You're like, but you have a bird. I'm like, I want another one. And you're like, do you really have time to get for another bird? And I'm like, no, but I'll make it work. It's like, you're like counseling me.
And then I go and get another bird.
Yeah. I can't wait for that too. We're going to go up to Seth's house and have an awesome time. Always good food, good drinks, awesome people, incredible, beautiful place that he's got up there. And yeah, you're going to love it. You've never been there, right?
No, never been.
you're gonna drool. You're not gonna want to leave. You're gonna want to chain yourself to like one of his barns and not leave. It's so awesome, dude. It's such a beautiful place. State of the art facilities with all his goshawks. You know, he's got just seasoned grasses that is all stocked and naturally managed. Not stocked. It's like all like he has a trapper that comes on his property and like cleans it out. And he's got cottontails. He's got pheasant, chucker. He's got some quail in there, and you know they all live there year round. And it's just a huge piece of property. And he takes his falconry seriously. He takes his business seriously. And it's just I can't wait.
Does he wear a tucked in shirt?
No, he's super normal guy.
as if that would make him not normal.
If you tuck your shirt in, I automatically start judging you. No, I'm just kidding. No, he doesn't tuck his shirt in, but he wears one of those little scarves that wealthy people wear, and they put it right here.
Oh, really?
You ever seen those?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he wears one of those when he walks around with a pipe. He's got a little pipe.
He does the pipe too?
Yeah, he does the pipe. No, it's all a lie.
I think. He doesn't do any of that?
No, he doesn't do any of that.
I tell my wife when I'm old, I want to look like a wizard. That's my goal.
Like Gandalf or something?
Yep, like Gandalf.
Dude, you could
Did you see The Hobbit? Did you see the movie?
Of course.
Radagast, who's got the little bird's nest under the hat.
Yeah. That guy's he's a little dirty.
He had like
he looks like he doesn't shower.
Crap like running down his face. Yeah. Yeah, I tell people like a mixture of like Hagrid from Harry Potter, Gandalf, all that. That's goals. And then part of that is the pipe, though. I'm definitely going to take up pipe smoking.
Yeah, I think everyone should. It's good for you.
Yeah, I think so, too.
All right, so what else? Anything else you want to ask?
No, I don't need to know anything else.
Okay. It's easy.
We stayed on topic pretty well. We just kind of stuck with goshawks.
Yeah, people are probably going to get a little irritated at that, but
they can do
that. Hey, you're interviewing me today. This interview is about me today.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I do want to ask one more thing. What is your favorite thing to hunt? I know the answer. But...
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if you know the answer because I would say that. So I'll just give you a story, not a story, but whenever I send a video of a duck hawking video to my buddies, like in a group chat, they all like make fun of me and say that I need to like start dieting or like start doing cardio because I'm always out of breath, like breathing like super hard. That's not because I'm tired. I didn't even run. I just run up to the stream. It's because the second I see the ducks in there, my heart flutters and I get butterflies and I start like, my heart's like, duh, 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 and I'm getting the bird out and I'm trying to be quiet. And then I'm freaking sneaking up there and I'm like, are they still by that little branch right by the side? Or do they move up? And I'm sneaking and then they're right there and I flush. And I'm like, it just gets me so excited, duck hawking. It's so fun, duck hawking, man. It's so cool. And also, like, I think like in the hierarchy of quarry, right? Like in most places, squirrels are everywhere. I mean, some places rabbits are everywhere. Where I grew up, rabbits were not everywhere. So rabbits are kind of like a commodity. Like it's for me, it's really fun and special to catch a rabbit. But ducks, they have to be in a certain spot. They have to be in the right slip. You have to set it up correctly. You can't just, kick a bush and catch a rabbit. You have to like plan it out. Like you have to pick what tree you want to use to kind of block the view of the ducks to sneak in, or what bank to sneak up behind. Like it's a different kind of a thing. And not to mention, like, the meat is different. Like, if you buy rabbit at the store, it's cheap. If you buy duck breast, it's not cheap. It's expensive. So it's kind of like ducks are kind of like, they're cool. They're like special, like they're just interesting. And there's so many different kinds of them. They're interesting. They look different. They feed on different things. You don't know really what you're going to get. You may see a couple and say, okay, there's a black duck in there, a mallard in there. And then you catch a widgeon. You know what I mean? It's like, you never know. So it's like,
what do you think the hardest duck to catch is? Like, if you slip a duck off the water, what is the hardest one to slip off, to catch once it's come off the water?
I would say wood ducks, because I've been trying to catch them forever. For the last 7 years, I've been like trying my best to catch a drake woody, but they're so hard to catch and they're so clever, and they wait till the bird is like out of position and they blow off, and they're so fast. but I know people that have caught them. But I would say when I went out to the marshes in Jersey, in the middle of nowhere, and I would say hooded mergansers are freaking hard to catch. They're really hard to catch because they just dive, and they'll dive all day. They don't care. They'll just dive all day. And once they know the bird is there, they really don't want to get up, and they'll swim 40 yards downstream and then get up and blow out when your bird's standing in the freaking grass. You know what I mean? Like,
diving ducks will ruin your day.
Yeah, they're super slick, and they're hard to catch. And most ducks, pretty much every duck that I've ever tried to go after will dive. They all dive. Ginger was chasing a gosling in my pond the other day, and the gosling kept diving. And she's so slow she can't catch anything. But it was funny to see this a little gosling diving to escape. So like,
there was a duck on a local park pond here. It was like a big white domestic duck, just massive, and it had a treble hook. It was handcuffed. Its feet were handcuffed because it had a treble hook like between the two. And people, people called and they were worried about the duck. So me and my sponsor went over there with a canoe. We went over there with a canoe and a net to try and net this duck. And we thought, okay, easy enough, right?
Yeah.
That fucker dives.
Yeah, dude.
This like big, like 20-pound, like goose looking duck is like diving underwater. And you can see under the water, it's like swimming under the surface like a freaking crocodile or something.
Dude, I have a great video of that exact thing. My Karen caught a duck, lost it in the water, and wounded it pretty bad. I mean, she's a 1,300 gram goshawk, and she messed it up pretty bad. And she's like swimming back to shore. The duck dove, like got out of her feet and was just gone under the water. And then I saw it pop up like maybe 30 yards away downstream. And then I saw it dive again. And I didn't even wait for my bird to get to shore. I just took off running full speed. And as I'm running, I'm looking at the water, and you could just see the green head of the duck just with his stupid little feet just swimming under the water, dude. And I literally just followed it, kept running, jogging next to him, following it. And then I kneel down and I'm crawling on my hands and knees and I'm following him. And the second he pops up, I freaking stuck my hand in there and grabbed him. It was a great clip. And then I ran back, hit it behind my back, ran back, and she's up on the bank, and I just tossed it out in front of her and she just grabbed it.
Did you count that one for her?
I probably could have, but no, I didn't. I don't think I did. Yeah. But I could have, because she got it first, right? Isn't that how it works?
I don't know if I'd count that one.
I don't think I did when I took my notes. I had really good notes about that bird, and it was just on like a little piece of paper, and my wife threw it away by accident.
Oh, yeah. Karen was a very famous bird.
Yeah, she did crazy stuff. She was just a super confident bird, and she found success with all different things, and that's what made her behave in that way. So, for example, every goshawk that I've ever entered and that I've seen, and not to mention I've been with my sponsors and my mentors flying goshawks, and they've been flying goshawks for 20 years. And ever since I met them, they had goshawks. So I've been seeing goshawks fly forever, like from day one. So every goshawk that I've seen, they'll always, like a lot of them in the beginning will try to grab a duck in the water, like just fly straight to the water and grab it, or, and whatever. And they usually miss, or they grab it and then get pulled under and then they let go. And then they don't do that anymore. Karen was just like this big giant bird. So she would just crash in the water. Even if she got it like by the foot, she was so strong, she would just swim to shore and pull it out. And then I would dispatch it and she would just crop up on it. So she had like this like sense of confidence that was like artificial. So I have videos of her just like from the top of a tree, just like a red tail tucked, just smashing the water like a osprey, and then grabbing the duck and then swimming it back to shore to me, which a lot of birds don't do that. I mean, every goshawk will swim back to shore, and if they have a duck, sometimes they'll swim it back. I've seen North Americans do that way, significantly less. So it's not like just that bird. I mean, a lot of birds do that. That's what I always say. Like, nothing I do is really special. I just document it and make videos in an entertaining way. I'm not like a special person. So she would do that a lot. And a couple of those videos went like not mega viral, not like Jones Falconry viral, but 6 million views, 5 million views, 4 million views. And then that, the one clip of when we were in the middle of this giant marsh in the middle of nowhere, and she caught the mallard, and she was just floating in the water waiting for me for like a half an hour. And then as soon as she saw me, she swam towards me and then traded off and then started eating. That was just, I mean, it was an interesting situation. I was in the middle of a swamp. It was like up to my chest in certain places with my waders on. But it really wasn't like anything out of the ordinary. And that video like went crazy. And then I got invited on like a whole bunch of podcasts from that, like probably 4 or 5 podcasts.
Your stuff went viral enough to where people showed them to me, kind of like the Jeremy Jones thing. They're like, check this out, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
You're like, that's my best friend since I was a kid. I love that guy.
It's my blood brother.
No, that's my blood brother, dude. Yeah. No, I've heard stories and people would tell me like, I'm like Jones Falconry light. You know, I'm like the knockoff version of Jones Falconry.
Your bird just wasn't cute enough. That's your problem.
100%. She didn't appeal to everybody.
Just imagine if I would have recorded my owl when I was hunting her.
Well, so I'm telling you, you got to film. You got to document.
What's in it for me? That's what
the
I want
memories.
to know.
I can go back and look at a very big majority of Karen's catches. I can go back on my GoPro and look and see all the awesome flights, how good of a bird she was, and I can like reminisce.
I just got to get better with the GoPro on my head.
Dude, you just put it on your head and you see the dogs yipping and whining or getting hot, and you just click it on. And then you just look wherever the action is and you catch it. It's really easy.
Maybe this season. Yeah. Maybe that'll be my resolution this season.
Yeah. So that was an awesome bird. And that went pretty viral. And it gave me an opportunity to represent falconry to people on their platforms and other pages, and people shared it. And I still license videos out to this day. Like just like last week, I licensed out a video of Ginger coming out of a hole. Like this, it's not a big, it's really, when I talked to Alora, Big Talons, she's real into like social media. She knows all about it. And I just sent her the screenshot like the first time somebody wanted to license something. And she's like, yeah, you're not going to make any money off of it. Obviously, they just want to post it. They want your permission to post it. So she's like, it's not a big deal. They're not trying to scam you or like own your likeness. So I'm like, all right. So I've done that. And that video, I licensed that video and like 2 or 3 other videos of Karen. And it doesn't really go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I got more views on my page than the page with 1 million followers. Like, you know, it's not like that big of a deal.
Still cool that people are that interested.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Falconry people are definitely interested in falconry. And if we could just get a good opportunity to represent it in a respectful, hunting and killing is not palatable to everybody, but that's not our problem. If it was, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, you would have no choice but to hunt or fish to survive, or barter trades, goods, or whatever it is with your neighbors to survive.
Kill your own chickens or your own lambs.
Exactly. So somebody that doesn't find hunting tasteful and they're offended by it, they're living in a new type of reality that is very new to human existence. And I'm not going to cater to that person. I'm also not going to like show my bird ripping something apart while it's still alive, even though it's natural and normal from a natural history point of view. But you present falconry in a respectful, palatable way to the general public, and then answer questions respectfully, and do your best to represent what you're doing. And that's what I've always tried to do. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, brother.
That's right. I mean, I get short with people sometimes, and sometimes I get a little bit of an attitude, which I'm working on. But some people are just so stupid. You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, bro. Like, get off my page. You're an idiot.
You got something just about every single day of somebody saying something ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just like nonstop. You know what I mean? And on TikTok was the worst. I deleted my whole TikTok and got off because it was nuts, man. I would post a video of my bird eating a rabbit leg with no foot on it on the glove, and it would get flagged for violence and gruesome images. I'm like, a bird eating is now gruesome and violent, and you're gonna suspend my account because of that. And I just got tired of it, bro. I'm not gonna, I got stuff to do. If I'm gonna post a video and I'm gonna have to go back and like, appeal it and send all this crap, I'm like, screw you, bro. Like, I'm off, done.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah, I don't.
But you'd post a video of your bird's foot, and you'd get like 600,000 views like in an hour. Yeah, like TikTok was like so easy. Like I have 60 something on Instagram, and I think I was almost at 100. And I didn't even really try 100,000. It was like super easy. But it's just like that. But I said TikTok originally to say that was the platform where I got the most hate, where everybody was threatening to kill me, kill my birds, kill my family, like all kinds of crazy stuff on that page, on that channel, for whatever reason. I don't know why, but
you should have just posted a meetup spot and be like, I'll come here every Saturday night if anybody wants to meet up with me.
Dude, I literally said that to a couple people. I said, I'll literally tell you where I'm going to fly, and please come. please come. I'm sick of it, bro.
You wish they would.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you're telling me you're going to kill my bird and my family. Like, literally come over here right now, please. I have a temper. I gotta like control myself, but
yeah, I think everybody knows that at this point.
Bro, you literally like somebody will tell you they're going to kill your whole family, and you call them an asshole, and dude, your comment literally gets flagged by TikTok. Obscene language. Remove the comment. Bro, like I just say he was going to kill my whole family while we're sleeping. I called him an asshole, and I'm getting banned. Get the hell out of here, bro! Freaking communist, though. Get out of here.
Well, we don't like families, right?
No, not in this day and age, bro. That's taboo, bro.
All right, man. Well, I think that does it for today.
Great.
Yeah.
I don't know how entertaining it was for the listeners, but
well, they got to learn about bot flies, so that's good.
They got to learn about bot flies, and what else were we talking about for an hour? Goshawks for like an hour.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's fun.